Meccano part number 1B, perforated strip. "15 holes. Hi, if you want even more Meccano goodness, why don't you check out my Patreon channel? And please like and subscribe and leave a comment below. I post updates in the community section, not only for this week's Patreon build, but also for what I'm currently working on. Thank you, and back to the build. Hi folks, and welcome back. This is a penultimate build for the highway set. Only one more, and then this set is finished. And that's the side tipping truck. Oh great, another script to write for a dump truck. It's always nice to get back to writing about cranes for a change. But if you can't take a joke, you shouldn't be on YouTube. The first time I heard the original variation of that joke was in the ambulance service. The original goes, "If you can't take a joke, you shouldn't have signed up." It comes from the bitter and ironic sense of humour that most people who deal with the unpleasant side of life have. And throughout my time in both the service and frontline mental health nursing, that joke would reappear a lot. But it's also a challenge that I enjoy, the ability to take on something that I'm not sure I can do, and try to find the story that's hidden inside. That moment of lost history, and the amazing people who got us to where we are today. And research is something that I really love doing, but there is a downside to it. You have to fact check your information. What I try to do is to find more than one reference to the source data, and not rely on flashy websites that tells me all I need to know. And not long ago, I came across one such site. It starts discussing mobile cranes and how before 1870 cranes were fixed in one place. That raised an eyebrow, because the Great Northern Railway in Britain ordered their first accident crane, as they were called at the time, in 1853 for the cost of £265, with a work gang of up to 450 men. The crane was hand cranked with a lifting capacity of 8 tons. Then they go on to talk about the French company, the Appleby Corporation, based in Paris in 1867, with a wonderful picture of an early steam-powered breakdown crane. And that would be the Appleby brothers, engineers of London, working around 1875. It's a 5-ton accident crane. And here's the thing, I will make mistakes, and that's okay, as long as I deal with the mistakes. Research is exploration, that moment of adventure that we embark upon, not quite knowing where it's going to end. You disappear down rabbit holes and pop back up somewhere else. Not quite sure how you got there, and I've learnt the hard way to record all my source data now, as I will be returning to it more than once in the lifetime of this channel before I have exhausted the seam of all of its data. Have you ever wondered when the crane was invented? At what point in our history it appeared? Because there was a time before the crane. Stonehenge, a prehistoric monument that dates back some 5,000 years in British history, was built with huge standing stones, each weighing in at roughly 25 tons. The lintels that cap them are lighter, but that is only relevant to the weight of the standing sarsen stones. Legend has it that they were transported the 130 miles to the Henge by ancient druids using eldritch rituals. Now I have no way of proving or disproving that. I'm quite sure there are lost technologies and methods of completing tasks that might well seem like magic to us now. Hell, mathematics seems like magic to me at times. But I grew up with a father whose master was in maths, a brother who's a chartered accountant, And no, he's not a sniper as well. And a brother-in-law who has a doctorate in advanced maths. 2 and 2 does not necessarily make 4. The sarsen stones were set vertically and then capped with the lintels at a height of around 15 feet. If that sounds impressive, the pyramids of Giza, built around 4,000 years ago, are larger. The slabs that we see weigh in around 3 tons each, but the supporting slabs weigh 7 tons. The Colossi of Memnon, built 3,500 years ago, which are giant statues of Pharaoh Amhotep III, weigh 300 tons each, a weight that modern cranes max out at. The method of construction, assuming no lost technology or other methods that I have no knowledge of, was that of the engineering ramp. Each item being built would have been surrounded by an earthwork ramp constructed by hand. This was a method of building which was well studied at the time, and as labour was easy to mass, would have been the simplest option. The stones were then loaded on a sledge, the technology that predates the modern pallet, and pulled to the site. This was easier than it sounds. In forestry, I saw the use of sledges to move timber. The load that could be carried could beat that of a tractor if you loaded the sledge correctly for the terrain you were working in. Get it wrong and you weren't moving at all, or moving somewhat faster than you wanted to, which was always fun when it happened to somebody else. For thousands of years, this method of construction and movement of heavy material worked very well until a series of inventions happened around 3,500 years ago. Around 1500 BC, the first cranes appeared, first used to hoist water from wells for irrigation. At the same time, the first pulley was invented by the Mesopotamians, used for both agriculture but also in sailing. Then the Greeks got hold of the technology, and sometime around 500 BC, the first compound pulleys were invented, and the science of force multipliers, called mechanical advantage, was discovered. As you add more pulleys, the force needed to lift is reduced, and the block and tackle was invented. The Greeks were able to lift up to 20 tons with their cranes, using a windlass system, and either human or beast to provide the power for lifting. Around this time, the engineering ramp begins to fall out of favour. The Greeks were able to match what the Egyptians had done before, but by using fewer people, or working smarter, not harder. The Romans took the technology from the Greeks and ran with it. Roman cranes were able to lift up to 50 tons. Then the Roman Empire collapsed, and for over 1,000 years, crane technology went into reverse. We lost the knowledge that had been gained. It wasn't until the rise of the Islamic State around 600 AD that the lost technology was rediscovered. It took another 600 years to get it to medieval Europe, and then the crane was back. Now using giant tread wheels with humans inside, sometimes suspended hundreds of feet above the ground, we were able to build giant castles and cathedrals, the like of which had never been seen before. Out of interest, it was common practice to use blind people in the tread wheels. They were well paid and well looked after, because even the most stout-hearted person quails when they look several hundred feet straight down, over the side of a cliff, or even just to the hard ground below. The Industrial Revolution in Britain saw the change from wood bound by iron to complete cast iron, or even steel being used in the construction of cranes. It had taken around 2,500 years to get to the giants that dominated our shipyards, lifting hundreds of tons of metal as easily as we lift Meccano parts out of a box. Patent number US 1066158A is for a crane attached to a traction engine. Maybe the first road transport mobile crane. The inventor, Edgar J. Solomon, filed it in 1910 and it was approved on the 1st of July 1913. It shows a front-mounted derrick hoist that's powered from the traction engine itself. A year later, in the town of Ravenna, Ohio, not far from Cleveland, on the shores of Lake Erie, the John F. Byers Machine Company filed a patent for the first crane mounted on an internal combustion engine powered lorry. The need was driven by war. As America entered the First World War, the need to ramp up goods being unloaded at the dockside, or more importantly, being loaded onto the railways and lorries that transported the much needed equipment to the front lines, became vital. Throughout these builds, America is the nation that has provided the engineers that have risen to the calling. That this is not surprising, in all honesty, should be no shock. The automobile, while its roots are firmly in European soil, found a country that was able to let it grow. Maybe there's something innate within that nation, a skill set that allows for a growth like that. After all, search YouTube and you will see most car restoration or build channels are American. There is a love of the internal combustion engine, the freedom that it brings, that's firmly set in the cultural history of America, a love that I don't see matched elsewhere. At the beginning of this script, I talked about a website that was incorrect. I think I know what they did back in 2014 when they created the page. The statement that is made is, after that, crane which is worked by steam power were built by Appleby Brothers at Paris in 1867 and Vienna in 1873. The correct statement should have read, Appleby Brothers demonstrated steam-powered cranes in Paris in 1867 and Vienna in 1873. And why is this important? The work we put out here will be out here for a long time. This person was a student of engineering back in 2014. If his facts were wrong on this, then what else is wrong? And the same goes for me. I want to be correct. That's part of the challenge, the fun of the adventure of script writing. Because this will be here a long time, and if I'm not careful, the bits that I get wrong will have a habit of coming back to bite me. And I want to be correct. And okay, my attempts at pronouncing foreign names is just awful. But that in time will get better. I hope.